Hey, it's Andrew Klavan. You may remember if you watched these videos a few weeks ago, we did one where the internet delivered something like the 24 or 25 top novels, and I then ranked them on a rating that goes from S, which I guess is supreme, superior. Somebody said S instead of A, and then you get A, B, C, D, no E, because there are no E's in Klavan, and then F. And that's what I will do. I'm going to rank what the internet says are the top 24, 25 movies, and I will tell you where they belong, because when I say it, we know it's true. I'm not just a machine. This is brought to you by ExpressVPN. That's ExpressVPN.com/Andrew Klavan Show to get 3 extra months free. It will protect your data. All right, let's find out what the internet says are the best movies ever. Are these movies being sent to me in the ranking of the internet? Like the first one will be there first? They're in no particular order. Okay. Number 1, The Godfather, 1972, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. One of the great American movies, not just one of the great American movies, but possibly the last truly great American movies. Now, I don't use the word great easily. I mean, to me, a great film is a top tier film. This is an S, and absolutely in the top tier of movies. There's nothing else quite like it. It is, it's a myth. It's not an actual, if you want to see Goodfellas, you want to see the real mob, that's what they look like. The Godfather is a myth, but it is a myth, a brilliant myth with an actual thematic line about how good and evil are sort of turned upside down. It is absolutely terrific. And of course, it launched 1 million stars because all the acting in it is great. That's an S film. Casablanca, 1942, directed by Michael Curtis, but really just directed by itself, Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman. That is the best American film ever made. There is no other one. Anybody who says it's Citizen Kane doesn't know anything about movies. They only know that they don't like conservative people. Casablanca is the greatest film ever made, and kind of a miraculous film. Greatest American film ever made. It is kind of a miraculous film because they hardly knew what they were doing as they wrote it. They didn't know where it was going to end. They didn't tell Ingrid Bergman what the end of it would be. She hardly knew how to act the part, but everybody in it is perfectly cast. Everybody in it is brilliant, and it breaks your heart. And it's elevating. It's a wonderfully elevating movie without being false, without being idealistic. It's an actual cynical look at mankind and shows that mankind can rise above itself and do something beautiful. It's a great film. The Shawshank Redemption. I'm going to get killed for this. It's overrated film, directed by Frank Darabont. Not a bad movie, not at all a bad movie. I don't want to say it's a bad movie. I just think it's a false, kind of silly movie. The story on which it's based, which is something about Rita Hayworth, the Shawshank, something in Rita Hayworth. That's a very harsh story, full of terrible stuff, Stephen King, obviously. And the movie, I just have never understood why people love it so much. I would give it maybe a B-. I'd say it's a good film. I would watch it again, but I just don't think it's a great film in any way, shape, or form. And I don't know why it's so loved. 12 Angry Men, directed by Sidney Lumet, kind of a liberal, stalwart. It's a good movie, a strong movie. It's dated. I've never thought it was one of the top. I would never have put it in the top 25 movies. I will give that all. I'm being kind of nice after they've dropped below A, because I really would have put The Shawshank Redemption as C, but C sounds mediocre. It's not. Shawshank is a good film. Angry Men is a good film. I would give this also a B. Star Wars. Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. This is the second in the first trilogy, if I'm correct, right? It's the second in the first trilogy. All right. Not a big Star Wars fan either. And I'll tell you why. Star Wars is a film that comes along at the end of the great period of American films. It is the film that turns American films into should I say, spectacles. It is not that well written. It's not that well acted. It is not that well imagined, but it is fun to watch, and it's certainly rah-rah and exciting and interesting. And so, if I'm literally going to have people showing up at my house with protest signs if I give it below an A, but I can't. It's just not. It's not a great movie as I think. What I think of as great movies. I'm going to give it a B as well. Does it make sense that the same company that controls half of online retail also passively eavesdrops on your private conversations at home? It's time to put a layer of protection between your online activity and these tech juggernauts. That's why I use ExpressVPN. Think about how much of your life is on the internet. Sadly, Every site you visit, email you read, and video you watch gets tracked and data mined. But when you run ExpressVPN on your device, the software hides your IP address so that big tech can't use it to identify you. ExpressVPN makes your activity harder to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your internet data to keep you safe from hackers and eavesdroppers on your network. What I like most about ExpressVPN is how easy it is to use. All you need to do is download the app on your phone or computer, tap one button, and you're protected. Stop handing your personal data over to the big tech monopoly that mines your activity and sells your information. Protect yourself with the VPN I trust to keep me safe online. Visit expressvpn.com/Andrew Klavan Show. That's expressvpn.com/Andrew Klavan Show to get 3 extra months free. Go to expressvpn.com/Andrew Klavan Show right now to learn more. Chinatown, directed by Roman Polanski, starring Jack Nicholson, Faye Dunaway. Chinatown is a really good film, and the score is one of the great scores in American filmmaking. But obviously, this is a list that favors modern films because Chinatown is a riff on old films that are better than it was and much more central to American movie making. Films like, well, I won't say Casablanca, but The Big Sleep, certainly The Maltese Falcon, which is a far, far better film than Chinatown. But it is a good movie. It has a wonderful interweaving of history with fiction, and again, great score. I'll give this one an A-. Yeah, I'll put it A. Parasite, directed by Bong Joon-ho, which I have seen. I thought it was okay. I give it a C. I thought I thought it was an interesting look. We don't get to see Korea all that much, and we don't get to see Korea make South Korea obviously parodying itself, satirizing the injustices in its society, and so I liked it. I thought it was good, and but it's not a great movie. I'll give it a C. This list is weighted far too much toward the modern. It is bigoted toward the modern. Citizen Kane, directed by Orson Welles. Citizen Kane, which I've watched again only recently, is certainly a brilliant piece of technical work. The filming of it is brilliant. The staging of it is brilliant. And would I put it in the top 10 movies? It's close. I'm going to give this either an A or an S. I would just barely put it in the top 10 movies because of the performances. The script is what gets touted and praised so much, but go back and watch it. You don't really know what is wrong with Kane. You don't know why he is being beleaguered and belabored so much, except for the fact that he's based on Hearst, and Hearst was a conservative, and just like Trump, just like Reagan, just like all the other conservatives, they hated him. They just hated him. And Orson Welles was basically being praised for this, and he never did anything to match it. Well, that's not true. Welles was a fantastic talent. So I'm going to put that in the S category. It's up there, but I always get annoyed because it's not number 1, 2, or 3, but it is a great film, so we'll call it an S. The Dark Knight, directed by Christopher Nolan, wonderful superhero film, probably the best of the superhero films, and certainly a really interesting, fun movie to watch. This is it's a harsh grade to give it a B, but to me that's still a good film, but I'll give it an A-. It's certainly an exciting, deeply, darkly political film with great visuals and probably the best version of Batman there is. 2001: A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick. C, do I even want to give it a C? Much, much overrated film. Good ideas in it, interesting ideas, but so slow that by the time it ends, you're hoping Hal will just kill everybody. It was touted for the genius of its insights. I don't find it that way at all. I think Stanley Kubrick, who started out as a great director with films like Paths of Glory and Two Wrote Together he made, started out as a great, great director. Then he took himself seriously, and I never thought he made as good a film as people said he did. I'm giving this a D. I don't think it's that good a film. Moonlight. It's fine. It's good acting, interesting little subject of what it's like to be a gay guy in the Black Hood. That's kind of a weird little interesting subject. Such a sliver of a tiny little film. For the acting, I'll give it a C. It's S-A-B-C, yeah, so I'll give it a C. But Come on. Alien. Well, certainly one of the great horror movies ever made. Certainly as great as any horror movie. Not as great as any horror movie, but certainly in the top tier of great horror movies. Great for its story, wonderful for its set design. Its set design is unlike anything. Terrific for its sexual anxiety. I'll give it a B, and that's high for me for a film like that. But it is a good one, and it's how can I put it? It's kind of essential to that genre. So yeah, I'll give it a City Lights, directed by Charles Chaplin. I think Chaplin is hilarious, and I think City Lights is wonderful. Really, just balancing it between an A and an S. Chaplin is one of the few people who remains funny. Humor dates in a way that drama doesn't for some reason, but Chaplin just doesn't. He's just funny. The guy was, my father was a comedian. He used to say, "Funny is funny," and Chaplin was funny. Let's put it up there. It's a S. It's an S because if we lost it, we would have lost something classic. So that puts it in the S category. Lawrence of Arabia is an S film. Lawrence of Arabia is a wonderful film because that's Peter O'Toole as the great Lawrence of Arabia by David Lean, one of the truly great directors. What it is it is the movement from the old days when epics were epic to a new day when epics became romantic. So it's an epic. It has wonderful action sequences, brilliant cinematography, but it's an inward film. It's a film about the inner man. And it's not true, but it's a film about the inner man. He's trying to get at something about Lawrence. He's trying to get at why, Lawrence was not just a gay, but he was he was involved in the sadomasochistic scene. And it kind of hints at that, but it puts it as part of the story and part of his engagement with violence. It's a deep film, and that's really rare. I mean, most films, even great films, are not always deep. I wouldn't call Casablanca a deep film. It's just a film of great feeling. But Lawrence of Arabia is a deep film and a deep look at an important, complex man. So let's put that in the S category too. Pulp Fiction. Another overrated film directed by Quentin Tarantino. It's too long. It goes off into this weird Tarantino fascination with people dressed in leather doing gay S&M stuff. It's good. I'll give it a B. Vertigo, an S film, one of the greatest films ever made, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, one of the greatest directors who ever lived. Almost a silent film in an era deeply committed to sound. Absolutely brilliant. Its major flaw, and this drove Hitchcock crazy, is that Grace Kelly should have been in it, but she had gotten married and she'd left show business. But just a brilliant, haunting nightmare of a film, a bizarre plot. I could talk about that forever. It's just one of my favorite films. The Lord of the Rings trilogy, the closest we have come to a great movie since The Godfather. Just wonderful to watch. Takes a kind of overlong novel, a very dense novel, and turns it into a riveting story. I'll give it an A. Inception, Christopher Nolan. It's a C. It doesn't really make sense. It's like it's good. It's interesting. I don't want to give it a C. I give it a B minus because it's a good film. I liked watching it. It's not a great one. Psycho. This is sometimes recently the Hollywood Reporter, Variety, named it the greatest film ever made. It is not, but it is as great a film as has been made. Another Hitchcock film. Transformed the movies. The slasher genre, unfortunately, comes out of it, but it is the first 45 minutes of it are as good as anything on screen, deeply psychological, deeply insightful, terrifying. The shower scene is as great as anybody says it is, but also just a sad movie because Anthony Perkins turns in a performance for the ages. Never did anything like it again, but it's just a brilliant performance. And every scene is riveting for that first 45 minutes, and the rest is, still iconic. It's an S film. It's one of the greats. Black Panther. That was a D. It was boring, cardboard. Everybody said you weren't allowed to say it. I said it, but you weren't allowed to say it at the time because everybody called you racist. But it was I don't like superhero films anyway. They're stupid, and Black Panther is one of them. Goodfellas. That is I hesitate to put that on the S level with The Godfather. The Godfather is the romantic myth of the mafia, and The Goodfellas is the true story. You know what? It's still great. I'm making it an S. It's a great film. It is Scorsese's great film. It's the culmination of everything he did. He's never done anything better. The acting is great. It is riveting. You can watch it again and again. That's an S film. No Country for Old Men, directed by the Coen brothers. That's a very good film. That is a really, really solid film. You know, the Coen brothers come as close to the great directors as anybody working. Definitely give it an A. It's powerful, it's riveting, it's terrifying, and it's smart. Yeah, it's an A film. Raging Bull, overrated. It's the same scene over and over again. You slept with my wife. You slept with my effing wife. Did you sleep with my effing wife? On and on and on. It's a B. What is your favorite movie of all time? The best movie of all time is Casablanca. It's one of my favorites. And the next question is, what is one movie that's not on this list that belongs on this list? Oh, there's so many films that were not on this list. But The Third Man is one of the greatest films. If you haven't seen The Third Man, watch The Third Man. If I leave you with nothing else, watch The Third Man. Not as good as the book list. The problem with that list was they'd never seen any old movies. That was the problem with that list. So they just didn't know enough about old movies, and they overrated a lot of modern stuff. But there you go. If you want more from someone who disses Star Wars, like and subscribe, and also subscribe to The Andrew Klavan Show wherever you get your podcasts.